You're listening to the Inspiration Network podcast, a show that is designed to inspire heart-centered creatives, soulpreneurs, and mindfulness mavens to connect with their deepest inspiration and soul calling. I'm Carolyn Stewart, and I am a dream chaser, adventure seeker, teacher, student, lover of the quiet. I am all about sitting with it, writing about it, and practicing before I preach. And currently, I offer meditation and breathwork trainings and share inspiration through the Inspiration Network podcast, Insight Timer, soulful workshops, and retreats. Learn more about all of my offerings at inspiredme.ca or via social at theinspiredme. Without further ado, let's get to this week's topic. Okay, let's get into this week's topic. So I've labeled this chat this week, How to Stay Sane in a World That's Gone Crazy. And, there's a lot going on in the world, and there is a lot of big feelings surrounding this. And sometimes it feels overwhelming and uncertain and disconnecting and fearful, and I feel anger, and there's so much that's being brought to the surface. And right now, where I live and in the community that I'm in, so I'm in Alberta, Canada, there are certain things happening that have created a lot of unrest, and that's not uncommon. It's not atypical for times and periods of big shifts and changes. And sometimes we get swept up in this experience, in all of the change and unsettling that's happening. And I'm sharing this podcast today because through this process, we really need lifelines. We need supports and perspective to help us through. And that's really what I turn to. I turn to, perspective that helps me to broaden the way that I see things. It helps me to perhaps get a little bit more curious about what's going on, both in myself and in the world at large, and, what role I can play in this experience. So before we get into this whole how to stay sane part of the podcast, I'd like to talk a little bit about freedom and sovereignty. And these terms really are core values of mine and of many of the members of the community that I'm part of. And at the same time, I've heard these terms being used in ways that are almost deprecating. So to talk about freedom as being something that can be, when exercised for an individual, actually harms the collective. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the definition of these two terms, because I think that getting clear on this will really help us to see why so many people are focused on these values and what they mean for everybody and how they can benefit everybody. So freedom is the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. So note in there that there's nothing that takes away from anybody else, but rather it creates the opportunity for the individual to share from their unique perspective. And I think that this is so important. This is coming down to my core beliefs here, is that we are all one. We are all part of the same whole. And yet we are unique emanations of divine. We are unique perspectives of the whole. And it's this uniqueness that we have that really contributes to the beauty in this world, to growth, to possibility. And so if we are to remove that freedom, if we are to remove or to suppress the expression of our uniqueness, we really take away from the possibility that's available to everyone. When we see something come out of an individual and we recognize it as being beautiful and amazing and maybe even challenging at times, what it does for us is it helps us to wake up to the possibility that exists within us. And so as we express our freedom, as we express ourselves in this unique way, it actually helps to support the collective evolution of all. So to me, this is why freedom is so important. So freedom to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance. Another component of this definition that really hits home during this time where there's a lot of control measures being put into place. So there's two other components to this definition. So one, the absence of subjection to foreign domination or despotic government. Right? So the freedom is the absence of subjection to foreign domination or despotic government. So this is really saying, without undue control. Where is the freedom to act in accordance to one's own moral values? And even considering this from a religious perspective, personally, I'm not religious. I'm very spiritual, and I do connect to values and my beliefs in us all being one. But consider it from a religious perspective. So many individuals who are part of religion, that is their moral compass. And to be subjected to control outside of this really goes against the freedom of religion, the freedom of choice. And then the second component of this expanded definition of freedom is the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. And one of the questions that I've been asking myself a lot lately, so anytime a belief comes up that is self-deprecating or that is self-judgmental, is who profits off of this belief? I take the time now to consider. So if I'm judging my body, if I'm judging, my feelings of sadness or depression or fear even, I ask myself, who benefits off of this belief? So who benefits off of the fear that I'm feeling? Who benefits off of the self-judgment that I'm believing? And so that benefit or that profit could be financial. There's definitely a lot of that going on in terms of the world of pharmaceutical, the world of government. Even just this understanding or this belief that, all that's happening right now is free for the people. That is really a misrepresentation of truth, because what does free mean in terms of something that we are using? Well, we pay for it as a people, don't we? We pay for it in many different ways, and we have to decide what it is that we're willing to pay for, what we choose as individuals and collective. So that's freedom. And now we move into the exploration of sovereignty. And this is really where I feel like our opportunity for stepping into personal power comes from. And it really takes freedom to a whole other level and to a place of possibility, of curiosity, of potential. So sovereignty being the supreme power or authority, the authority of a state to govern itself or another state, and an individual having the supreme power or authority over oneself. So consider that. What does it mean to be sovereign as an individual? What does it mean to show up in your life and have the ability to really be the supreme power of your life? Who is the expert of you? Who is the expert of your health? Who is the expert of your body? How can anyone outside of you really be the expert of that? And there's so much opportunity to learn and to grow from other people's experience and opinion and belief and exploration. Absolutely. That's the benefit of the time that we're living in. We have so much access now to both the Western model of science, which is just one perspective, really remembering that I think is important, as well as thousands of years of traditional medicine. And then also your own unique perspective, remembering that we are free beings, that we are unique emanations. And as we learn, as we grow, we contribute to the whole. So you are an important, an essential, integral part of the whole. And as you learn, as you grow, and as you share your uniqueness, you contribute to this beauty, to this real opportunity for growth and expansion. And so to be sovereign is to really understand your personal power, to understand that you are the authority of you, that you have this opportunity to choose, that at no point is choice being taken away from you. And while we might be experiencing a lot of external influences and feeling as though some of the things that we might have wanted to do or some of the ways that we thought things were going to go are not the way that it is, that doesn't mean that this has to limit us. You know, there's always opportunity for resilience. There's always opportunity to respond, to become responsible. So really consider that word responsibility and divide it into two component parts. So response and ability. And consider how you are going to respond to this experience, to any experience. And this is where I'm going to take us into another exploration that will guide us into how to stay sane in this world that has gone crazy. And the question that I have to start with is, where does the responsibility for your health fall? And where does the responsibility for your family's health fall? And this, I can feel emotion rising in me as I ask this question. Because for so long, I really have taken on the responsibility for my health and my family's health, right from the beginning of when I had children, and even before that with myself. You know, understanding that my health is really up to me. It's a personal choice, and I have so many resources and so many opportunities to learn about what it takes to be healthy, to be vital, to be whole, to really connect to my wholeness. And then when it comes to my family's health, that is my responsibility. That's my choice to be responsible for that. And I recall, you know, even having young children and feeling a little bit left out or maybe outside of, where my friends were at. I was having children quite young and none of my friends had children. And so the people that I did connect with tended to be individuals who were really connected with natural health and those who felt empowered to care for their family. And also trusted in the innate healing ability of each individual's body. And that's really where I feel like the trust needs to be in so many different ways. So to listen to the body and have the ability to respond. So again, responsibility. So listening to the body and having that ability to choose to respond in a way that is supportive. So that doesn't mean that, we exclude all potential interventions or opportunities for care in our system of health. And I'd like to maybe shift that title away from healthcare to sick care, because that's really what we have. We have an acute care system that is so good at caring for the sick. So when individuals have already entered acute phase of illness, but everything that leads up to then really doesn't fall within that realm. That falls within our own personal realm of health, our own ability to respond and care for our health and vitality. And so, yes, remembering back to, my children's health and how I was caring for them, the systems that were put in place, I really felt did not support my ability to help care for my children or to help care for my family. In fact, a lot of times I felt really outside of that system, not supported by it, when I was experiencing postpartum depression, I didn't feel that there was supports put in place for that. Even down to as simple as, when my children had a fever, what I was told was to give them Tylenol to help to reduce the fever, not explaining to me that fever is a natural part of illness, that it's actually the body's way of dealing with something that's so integral to health, rising heat in the body to help to ward off infection. The body is so intelligent. And our trust in the body's innate wisdom has really been left by the wayside. And so my invitation to both myself and to you, if you're here listening, is to consider how we can better listen to the innate intelligence of the body. And how can we heed the signals? How can we heed the messages of the body that know when it's time for outside help, when it's time to reach out, when it's time to ask for assistance, and knowing who to ask? When it's within that realm of health and we just want to feel better, or we want to look for alternative solutions, who can we turn to? Can it be a naturopath? Can it be a functional medicine doctor? Can it be an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, a chiropractor? Can we turn to diet and exercise? What opportunities are there in the realm of healthcare before we get to the realm of sick care? And then knowing also, having that ability to respond to the possibility of needing assistance when it becomes an acute illness or disease process. So that's really what it means to look at all of the possibilities of what is here for us right now. We are so fortunate to be living in such a dynamic time of possibility, and to recognize this body wisdom, to exercise our sovereignty, our authority over ourselves, of our personal power to choose, to really take that power back from any places that we might have left it, any places where we might have given away our power to others. And something that really came up for me strongly this year was noticing how much power I give to family, and how much I place my self-worth in their hands, in their eyes, and how I so desperately wanted to be accepted and loved by family. And that I would actually compromise my values. I would compromise my values, my sense of self, what I knew to be true for me, my own innate body wisdom for family. And that's shifted and changed. And it was a little bit of a painful process for me to make that shift. And so part of the way that we stay sane is by choosing to respond, to listening to that innate body wisdom, to becoming really attuned to what the body is teaching us, what it is showing us, and understanding emotion, the emotions that we feel, as being important messengers, as important feedback for what it is that we need in our life, where it is that we are perhaps out of alignment. So emotion really is the body's way of showing us what it is that we need to respond to. And so when we start to become in tune with feeling, and believe me, I know that it's not always easy. I went through a period of time in my life where it was almost 10 years where I didn't cry, where I really numbed out emotion. I was in a state of disassociation. So my nervous system was in a place of self-protection after trauma. And that's a really natural trauma response, but it became disordered for me. It became limited. And one of the issues with numbing out feelings, so numbing out the uncomfortable feelings, is that you also numb out all of the positive feelings, all of the feelings that are designed to help you feel pleasure and joy and connection and love. And so we must return to our feelings. We must start to connect again to the truth that exists within them, and to use our emotions as a feedback system, to start to listen to emotion just as much as we listen to the body, the physical sensations. Emotion is an expression of the body. It is energy expressing through the tissues. We will feel it in the body. Emotion isn't just subjective, it's felt experience. So the next way to stay sane, so I've already shared two things. So the first being to remember your power, to remember your sovereignty. And that includes the ability to respond. And the second being to feel your feelings all the way through, to really recognize that your feelings are here to teach you and to show you truth. And the third thing that I'm going to share is community. Do you have connection with community, with people who support you, who uplift you, who are there to remind you of truth, to challenge you, to help to guide you in a way that feels good to you? You know, community is available. Consider even now in this moment, if you're feeling disconnected or alone, you know, what ways you can reach out right now. And I get that when we're feeling down or disconnected or disassociated, that's the last thing we want to do is to reach out. That maybe we feel as though we aren't deserving, or that perhaps people won't want to be with us when we're in times of sadness or fear or scarcity or lack. And yet community is developed and really appreciated most during these times. And I know for myself, as being a member of community, that has really started to strengthen and grow throughout this process of unbecoming and relearning what it means to be part of community and connecting with others. That in times of difficulty, you know, we feel called to greater love. We feel called to greater support. And I love offering help and support. When I receive a request and I'm able to fill it, when I'm able to share my love and kindness and care with another, it is so warming. It really is what it means to be in purpose. And so if you are in a space where you need that support, ask. Because I can guarantee you the individuals who are available, so able, and really in a space where they can give, they want to. It fills their cup. And then you know in return, you're going to be able to do the same for them. That there are going to be times where you will be able to give in return. And it's this beautiful cycle of giving and receiving. And it grows abundance. The more we can both give and receive, the more abundant we will be. And so if you are feeling called to community, if you're feeling called to the village, reach out. You know, find people with shared values to you. It exists, and show up. Even when you're scared, and maybe you need to ask if somebody will come with you or will join you in that space, but just know that every step down that path will guide you home. You know, Francis Weller shares that grief is a physical manifestation of the unfelt or unrecognized village. It's the part of us that is longing to be part of something bigger, that is calling us home, to be in connection, in community with others. And now, more than ever, we are being called to this community connection. It is so essential that we stay connected. And that when we feel ourselves slipping into isolation, despair, uncertainty, that we find ways to reach out. We don't need to suffer in silence. And it's my personal belief that the greatest casualty during this time of unrest, uncertainty, of what I feel is oversight, overreach of government and health authorities, sick care authorities, is that we are being separated from each other, or we're being made to feel that we need to separate from each other. And this is my call forward, that you absolutely do not need to do this. That you are a sovereign being who is free. You can choose to connect with the people that you feel called to connect with. That you can lean on the supports, that you can be a support. And the last thing I'd like to speak to in terms of staying sane in a world that has gone crazy is to choose to focus on what you do want. What is it that you do want to create? What is it that is the highest vision for your life? And sometimes we look at limitations in our external experience as being, roadblocks, as signs telling us that we aren't meant for this. And yet vision is more of a detour. So when a limitation comes up, rather than it being a roadblock, it's a detour. It's showing us a better way. So what vision are you seeking to create for your life? What is the highest possible vision that you have for your life? Focus on that. Focus on what really lights you up and engage those emotions. I've been listening to some really beautiful talks by Joe Dispenza, and he speaks about the personality as being how we think, act, and be, how we show up in the world. And the interesting thing about that is that we can choose all of that. We can choose to change that. So we want to choose how we feel, how we experience life. We can change our experience at the core fundamental level by choosing how we think and how we act and what we believe in. And so when we focus on vision, when we focus on what we do want, we ultimately start to change our experience. And when we change our own personal experience, that starts to change the world around us. It attracts those things to you. That's what manifestation is all about. And then even above and beyond that, it starts to ripple out. It starts to inspire others. It helps to create even greater alignment. And remember back to when we started this discussion, it was all about what it means to be free. You are a unique emanation of divine. You are here to contribute your uniqueness, your beauty to the collective vision for the highest possibility for all. And so please don't deprive us of that. Don't deprive us of your beauty, of your uniqueness, of what is possible in our world. You are so needed here. You are here because you are important. What you have to say, what you have to think, the highest vision that you have for your life is a beautiful contribution to the whole. So that's my belief as to how we can stay sane in this world that sometimes feels as though it's gone crazy. Remember your power. Feel your feelings all the way through. Connect with community. Remember the village. And choose to focus on what you do want. Choose to focus on the highest vision for your life and for the collective. Thank you so much for being here with me today and for sharing in this exploration and curiosity. For me, this has been a little bit of an emotional one, and I appreciate your willingness to be part of this discussion. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your insights. And I would so appreciate you giving this podcast a 5-star rating and a written review. It helps so much with continuing to offer these episodes, and then also to help get this in more people's ears. Sending you so much love. Oh, and I really look forward to connecting again and to witnessing and experiencing your uniqueness, your unique beauty.